there were a few successes at the initial tenure, which was the last 4 years.
Yes.
But currently, as of the last, just when they came into um, this new administration, there has been a resurgence, and we've seen that. And there are even many cases that are unreported, and we've also heard of so much release of these troops. So this guy that they have caught, how far am I sure that they're not going to release him after they do a debriefing? We keep hearing of the release of hundreds of rehabilitated or repentant insurgents, and we wonder what is going on.
Do you think it's some form of plea deal? So, if you read the details of this story, they talk about how they've collected intelligence,
Yes.
gathered intelligence from him, and he would help them further, chase after the others that are at large.
Yes.
Do you think it's worth releasing them, as it were, or releasing information like this? That's another question, sorry. But the first part is, do you think it's worth the plea deal if this one person can help them capture hundreds of others?
I take that storyline with a pinch of salt, because we have seen other cases. If you remember, what was his name? Bala something. There were various captains within the Boko Haram war that they've caught at different times in time.
Yes.
We haven't really gotten much information from them, or how far they had gone because of this intelligence they've gotten. Some of the territories that they captured have been recaptured by the insurgents. And all this while, in this whole war, we have not heard of the sponsors. How are they able to get guns?
Yes.
How are they able to get funds? How are they able to keep financing and keep themselves going? Are we fighting ghosts? Who is leading this? At the end of the day, we've heard the names of what's his name, the all famous Boko Haram leader who has died 9 lives. We seem not to be able to ever capture these people. Now, what I am looking at, the true update I'm expecting, is whereby we see a change in the strategic game plan. If there's need to even work with external people,
right,
we don't have to hold up in pride and say that we won't allow external people to support us. We need to get done with this once and for all. If it needs a change of guard, if those who have been there have done their best, then try a new system. If it also requires a little bit of casualty count. This lady, Leo Sharibu, I remember at the time, the parents were so incensed as to what had happened to their child, having released over 100, that they even gave permission to the government to do whatever it takes to ensure that their child does not live through what she has been living through up till date. And now there are rumors which have been unconfirmed about her being impregnated.
Yes.
These things do not sound right in our eyes, that Nigerian citizens are being terrorized right in our land, and for months and on months and on months we go without much avail.
All right, thank you very much, for that analysis. We have from WhatsApp.
From Yaba Tayo said, the news story on Boko Haram is catch and release. Nigerian army and governments are playing to the gallery, is what he said. For Bingus says, the Boko Haram insurgency, which began somewhere in Borno State by a certain Madisuf, that's defied every solution. Billions of not billions and not trillions of naira have been spent to tackle this insurgency. But why did it not
Discuss this story in Business Express on with Reuters. But we have a breakdown of the 6 firms that the CBN has limited the number of companies, limited those who can import milk and also get access funds from them.
Funds from them.
Mm-hmm. Please, can you take us to the story?
CBN is restricting access to Forex for importation to 6 companies. So Friesland, whose major brand there is Peak, to Chi, TG Ala, who also do milk and butter. There is essentially, again, restricting access to cheap funds, or cheaper funds rather. And the fact that you've now, when you want to stimulate the economy, what do? You implement tariffs, you protect domestic production, either you give them financial support or you give them some sort of other kind of training. Now, in doing this, I'm not sure this is the best way to go about it, because you're creating, I'm going to try and pronounce this word now without an oligopoly. You're essentially creating a cartel in the milk industry. Again, I'm tired of seeing, actually, the policy is fine. It's the implementation that's really the problem. So you've gone and done this. I I think speaks to backward integration, so how much support they're plowing into the local industry and the local sector. But then you've come in and banned it, and not banned it, you've implemented this, and you've said it's only for orders that you've taken shipment for. Have you taken the time to understand the cycle of how they place their orders? Do you have commitments that have been made? Do you have orders that haven't been shipped? Do you have, there's so much in that space. So to say that it's for everything that that shipment is already in place is a bit short-sighted. So when I see these things, I'm a bit concerned for how we go about implementing our policies, even though the end goal, the mindset or the mission behind the goal is a good one. We have to stimulate our economy locally, but it's just so really it's for me is how this is going to impact. I think in the short term, the cost of milk should be fine because these are brands, the major brands that most people do use at the moment. But then I look further to people like small businesses who import other products. So bakeries who are using powdered cream, for instance, that none of these local producers have at the moment. So again, it goes to providing a larger, opening more markets for these 6 companies and almost shutting everybody else out.
All right, just to note that according to the circular that was released, the Form M, which is a mandatory statutory document to be completed by all importers for importation of goods into Nigeria, has been restricted to these 6 companies. So just to let you know that if you're not one of these companies, you won't have access to Form M.
Thank you. You're limiting the companies' access, or the companies that produce milk, just to boost local production.
Yes.
Because sometime about 2 days ago, we heard, I saw a story that the federal government was trying to increase efforts at mechanizing farming and local production in a sense. Could this be one of those moves?
I was just going to say that now, because I mean the idea behind this policy, in addition to what Uti has just mentioned, is that the idea behind it is to stimulate local production. And what the CBN is saying is that they've recognized these 6 companies are companies that are working towards backward integration and ensuring that they're increasing the local production. So it's all well and good if the government is doing stimulating local production, but I think the way the government is going about it is probably in the opposite direction, or in the reverse direction. What we should be looking out for now is several months or several years down the line, how much local production are we currently producing now? How much will we be producing in 5 to 10 years time? Because I have a lot of doubts about this.
Yeah, but the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step.
It starts with a step.
So
I don't have. That's what I'm saying. I don't have any
12
problem.
months to increase by 50 metric
Exactly.
lines.
So, but what I'm saying is that we need to be able to measure this achievement, whether we've been able to achieve this 12 months, 1 year, 2 years down the line, if we've been able to achieve this increment, because that's the idea behind it.
Yes.
But I have a lot of reservations that most likely we might not achieve that.
Thank you very much for pointing that out, Gbolahan. Indeed, like just alluding to what Uti mentioned, you don't have anything against the policy. It's the implementation and the practice of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Gbolahan, I'll be interested to have you discuss this because the former First Lady met the First Lady and had a chit-chat in Aso Rock. So First Lady Aisha Buhari met with her predecessor, Mrs. Patience Jonathan, at Presidential Villa. The interesting part in this is the conversations they had. They said they picked up issues around girl-child education. They also discussed efforts to have women more involved in politics, in governance at a certain level. And the most interesting part, for consultation to be done. I mean, for women first ladies to keep in touch, so to speak. Your thoughts, please.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong when you have former First Lady and the present First Lady meeting. We've seen this time and time again where the former president and also the current president do meet. It's one would expect that it's for the development and for the progress of the nation as a whole. And what we should be asking is, what were the meetings for? What were the areas of importance that they discussed about? And you've just mentioned it. They talked about the girl-child education, talked about having more female participation in politics. I mean, these areas are things that are very, very crucial to this nation. We know that when we're talking about girl-child education, we know we have a very, very high number of females that are not being educated, especially in some certain aspects or some certain parts of the country. When we also talk about women in politics too, we know that we're running at very low figures too. I remember while the president was campaigning for this new term in 2019, he did promise that we were going to have 35% female representation in his cabinet. And of course, we know the benefits of having more women in decision making in our lives, because it's been proven time and time again that there's a lot of benefits that we stand to gain when we have a lot of women that are representing us in cabinet, in society, because the effect of the policies that they come up with trickles down to the low and to children too. So in this case, President Buhari did promise 35%, but what did we get when he elected his cabinet ministers? We got about 16% or so. We got about 7 out of 43 cabinet members were women.
Well, let's hone in on the interests. I mean, the possible interest of this two first ladies meeting each other. What could the conversation come up with?
That is exactly what I'm saying. The interest shouldn't be any more interest than what affects the common man and the citizens of society. I mean, I would expect that it shouldn't be personal interest.
But you know what I'm really asking you?
I
So what do you have?
Well, she doesn't have an office. Thank you.
So this about how does it affect the president?
The outcomes of that meeting. Number one, they talk about inclusion of female or women in politics and child education. Let's look at the CV or the preview of the former first lady and how much she contributed to increasing the number of women in politics or to child education. And then let's see what's happening now. The president famously said that his wife doesn't have any involvement in politics, but that she belongs to the other room. So when we have meetings like this, it is, you wonder why. Well, I don't know.
It's
It-
just
no,
it's content.
No, but
Please.
no, let's be fair.
In principle, it sounds nice.
In principle,
Yes.
in principle, you might not have an office, but
No, in reality.
in reality, yes, you don't have you don't have an office in reality.
Yes.
But one should expect that the wives of the president should be able to have some influence in
The other room.
the
But-
if you
but
put
that's
it
exactly
if you
what
put
I'm
it that
saying.
way,
You have no
you should have
influence.
some influence. You should have some
You should.
level of
But
influence.
so my point isn't even that. You've taken away her office. Not having an office doesn't stop you from being able to do some sort of work. So I would have liked to see in this story that, we have achieved this, or
Yes,
we've done that. Don't just list the
exactly.
issues we already know. The girl child has lots of issues.
That's true.
What is your plan? How can you affect that? You are two very powerful women, office or not. And sorry, I can't.
Office or not, they also get access to state funding, because we know that last year the president appointed a few senior special advisors to the office of the first lady. So we fund their lifestyle to a certain extent. So we should actually have expectations.
Let's hope that there
Yes.
were some more discussions on this beyond what we've read in the papers anyway, because this paper only just had half a page.
Very optimistic.
Kevin says the essence of the meeting is part of what you're doing now, discussing it. Big T says milk. Limiting the field only creates a cartel, but I worry about monopoly and pricing issues. I have a question. All the cows our headers roam around with, are they all milk? How come we don't have enough local milk plants? Yes, around Nigeria we can produce these things locally.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to our next story. Devoe has been unusually quiet in our conversations, but let me come to you for this next one. Senate top stuff threatens to demand sack of NDA heads over audit report from Premium Times. Hopefully this will get you talking. Please take us through this story.
Right. For those of you who have been following, the account has been taking many of the MDAs, that's the ministries, departments, and agencies, through reports by the Auditor General. The Auditor General did make a presentation, and he raised plenty queries, especially on the issue of failed submission of financial accounts for audits. Okay, and what he has stated in summary is that for the past 24 MDAs did not submit their reports. That was in 2016, and many have not submitted the report as of the resumption of this presidency last year. And what he said in summary, that for the past 22 years there has been a culture and failure of MDAs to submit their reports. Okay, now what he was calling for was for heavy sanctions, especially where this financial reporting is not done. Secondly, the other issue that was a major problem, which the House committee threatened sack of some of the chief executives, was their non-appearance. Now, with all the MDAs that were meant to be present, okay, many of them didn't show up. Some of them sent representatives, and what they said was if the for those that sent representatives, the House committee said that if you're not able as the chief executive to answer tough questions where concerned, then you are not fit. And it would submit this. But I do have a very strong hold here. Yes, we commend our now it is fingered out. Already you have seen here in black and white that for the past 22 years, the story and history of Nigeria nobody has been audited properly because they haven't been submitting. Some of them, many of them. This is 22 years of bad financial governance. This is where the corruption takes place. This is where all those holes and leakages of expenditure, and yet year after year they keep collecting money, collecting subventions. If ever they're able to unleash or unearth the reality of what has been going on in our ministries, departments, and agencies where government spends, I think many will be fainting. As of yesterday alone, what did we see? We saw the comic charade of the bursar of the University of Ibadan states that since 2016, they were not able to submit their own audited reports because the auditor went blind. Let's just rest 2 seconds to understand the stupidity in that response, and that he had the mind to be able to come up in front of the House of Assembly and tell them this. Now, I expect upon this, you can't leave this to the Auditor General. We need, if you are truly standing for anti-corruption, then we need to see sanctions take place immediately.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for that, Devoe. Again, yes, welcome to Fine. Thank you very much. And let's move on to the next one.
Yes, before that, let's just take that flame. Dipti said the president, the office of the unicorn, it's a fictional entity, but to those who believe in it, officially it does not exist, but in reality, the power it's real, is real. Tayo says MDAs will not show accountability, but they will come to the public outings and tell us that they are viable, more like avenues to use. Joke says from Ikeja, the First Lady's meeting is purely content to the media. It has no actual effect on what happens next. And then this other message here from Ifako, or rather Bangwe, Kunle Bangwe, thank you. He said the National Assembly capturing is okay. Nigerian Army capturing Boko Haram members is just a waste of time and other resources. Sure, they will be rehabilitated and released to the society as usual. What's the essence of capturing them?
All right, thanks a lot, Kunle, and to everyone who sent in comments. We'll move on to our next story, and Uti, I'll come to you for this. 1019. This is coming in from a United Nations Children's Fund, that's UNICEF report, which came in yesterday, Tuesday, and they've factored in what's happened with regards to malnutrition on the nutrition sector in Nigeria between January and December. Please take us through this report.
So the story speaks to treatment of malnutrition, and particularly in Borno State. And it says in 2019, 138,000 plus children were treated in various acute malnutrition centers. And sadly, 1,115 children have died in that time. And in 2020, it's looking like the numbers there will triple to about 533,000 children who will be needing treatment. And the core drivers for this, of course, predominantly the IDP camps. A lot of these children don't have access to clean water, don't have access to food, diarrhea, and things like measles are a real issue. And when you hear the numbers, it's startling, and it's worrying that these children are dying from something that, would I say it's easily remedied? But when I look at malnutrition and I look at what else is happening in the world, and when I looked in this story, I expected to see something, or there was something I was expecting to see, which was missing, which is one of the remedies that UNICEF as an organization is pushing for the treatment of malnutrition. Now, peanuts is something, or groundnuts as we call it, is something that Nigeria is the largest producer of peanuts in West Africa. We contribute to 10% of the production in the entire world. Now, this is absolutely, this is what UNICEF is using globally to treat malnutrition. We have the groundnuts that is cheap, mix it with some sugar, mix it with some vitamins, and you have the best remedy to deal with malnutrition. So I would like to see that they've talked about the funds that they're going to put into dealing with this, about 5 billion from the state and about 1 billion that's been released from the Bank of Industry. would like to see those funds put to that kind of use because it's a cost-effective use.
Yes.
Groundnuts are already produced in the north. It's like top 6 states, like Kano, Kaduna, even Borno is one of the states where we're really producing this. So the answer is in our hands. We just really need to grab it and do something with it. But it's quite startling numbers.
Very startling. Thank you very much, Uti.
All right, thank you. Let's go to the next story from the Vanguard newspaper. Gbolahan. What was this? Was it Monday? No, actually, it was
Wednesday,
about
wasn't it?
Thursday. Yeah. Thursday, we
Wednesday.
talked about $8 million that was found
Yes.
at the airport.
Yes.
And then it was located inside a bus that belonged to NACO.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said they counted the money 2 days later. And I was questioning how it would take 2 days to count money and come up with a report. Apparently, that answer has been cleared up as the supposed owner came forward to say it wasn't $8 million, it was $9 million. And I go, aha, there goes the 2 days. What happened then? But what are your thoughts regarding the story?
Well, I mean, let me start by saying that this information is yet to be confirmed yet at the moment. I mean, these are all still speculations, and this information was reviewed according to Vanguard due to the investigations that they carried out, and they got the information from an inside source who revealed that the owner of the money has showed up and is making claims to this money that was found within the NACO bus, just as you mentioned. And as you mentioned, he's claiming that the money was $9 million instead of the $8.1 million that was found. And that ongoing conversations and discussions are currently taking place between the owner of this money and the Nigerian Customs Office. And it's being mentioned that the money most likely will be returned. First and foremost, it's been said or allegedly said that the suspect, who is Chimezi Okonkwo, who was found with the money driving the bus, has been released, and they're still in talks as to how to get the money back. And it's alleged that the owner of the money is also a VIP in the ruling party. Now, this raises a lot of questions. I mean,
Get the money through safe corners.
It has.
Channels that can't be questioned.
And it raises a lot of questions as to what we've been talking about. We're talking about our foreign reserves being depleted. We're talking about rationing dollars and allocating money to certain companies to import milk and all of that. Here we are now. $8 million is going out of the country, and there's no investigation being carried out. Thorough investigation.
One second. First, we establish that there are rules of engagement in this case. If you're at the airport, you're flying with certain amounts. You're expected to declare
if you're
money
going
is in excess of
$10,000.
$10,000. Exactly. So, for this not to have been followed, we know that right now you're looking at the story. You have a lot more questions than answers. Why is that so? If there's allegations that it possibly belong to a VIP in the ruling party, well, I think that's not been pointed out. I mean, those are the main questions I would expect. To be answered, not necessarily. If we go to GDP, that's fine. Let's talk about now cause and effect.
It just points fingers at when we're talking corruption. It goes to show the level of rot that we have in our system, and that we're just playing double standards to this fight against corruption. On one hand, when you have people, and it has been said so many times, when you're talking about people that are in your party, and once they join your party, their sins are forgiven. This is a classic example. I mean, it's important for us to remember that we need to continue on constantly keep this at the front burners of the newspapers, because we have to get to the root source and the root cause of this.
Absolutely.
Why is this money leaving the country, and who are the owners of these funds, and are they going to be prosecuted?
All right, thank you very much, Gbolahan. And also, what's this headline? Uti, police officer accused of murder receives double promotion. I like your reaction when we raised this topic earlier, but please share with us.
So, for once, it will seem like I'm supporting the police. You are innocent until proven guilty. And if no action is taken against you when there is an alleged crime, how should it hold your career? If you're going to prosecute to the full and throw me in jail. But I'm doing my job, I'm walking the streets free, I should be promoted. So the story speaks to a senior police officer who back in 2014 was accused of torturing or being in charge of a man who died from his injuries. And in that time, since that time, he's now become the head of SARS at the national headquarters in Abuja. Now, the fact that it's SARS alone enough said. But the reality of it is, does this happen in the police force? It does. Does anybody get prosecuted? No, they don't. Anything else you can do, because you can't, on the merit of an allegation, when it's actually criminal and you haven't taken any action, then decide that he's not able to be promoted. So I don't see how the two
No, but
correlate.
they did find out though that the brothers Awal and Hassan were wrongfully accused. So that was established. And this senior police officer, Yusuf Kolo, was in charge of that operation. There should be some culpability to this. They were found to be not guilty, and
No,
they were
I
charged.
totally agree. But the fact is, even if I've been found culpable, if no steps have been taken, and I'm going to work every day, I'm doing my job, and for all intents and purposes, I'm being promotion, then I will get promoted. If you're not going to, so one doesn't stop the other. They're not, so that's my point. I just think that if he is guilty, it's alleged. Charge him, go through this, and get to a legal conclusion. But you can't just say, oh, because he's suspected allegedly, then he's not entitled to a promotion. It's the entire police force it's the rot in there when it comes to this kind of practice is absolutely humongous, and we know the stories about SARS and what they do. So I don't think penalizing this one man for this one thing makes any logical sense.
All right, thank you so much for your comments and your reactions to the story. For all those who are listening, thank you, and as to our analyst, Devoe Okorie at Devoe Okorie official, Uti at I Am Sitting World in the Locker Room 981, and Tega Supreme will be joining us. Good morning.
The headlines. The story.